Hi everybody, I am Tommy Scoville. I'm your captain. This is the Lifeboat. People, today I'm going to be talking about pornography, and this isn't going to be X-rated. It is, however, obviously not a subject matter for kids. Just always want to mention that at the beginning. Anytime the subject matter gets to run a little bit older, people, you shouldn't have your kids watching any of my stuff. But this is one that you definitely should not have your kids watching. Also, this is a polo shirt. I had, I think, 30 or 40 different people who have asked me in emails if I own a shirt that doesn't have a polo guy on it. Here you go. This doesn't have a polo guy on it. Polo has a whole new line of shirts for people that don't like the polo guy. I happen to have the polo guy tattooed on the top of my foot, so he's always there. I am a huge polo fan. That being said, the subject matter is pornography, people, and I could start this out with a joke about how I've been researching this subject my whole life or something along those lines. I'm not going to crack jokes about this because it's one of those things that if this happens to be your addiction and you tell someone that, there's almost a snickering or a laughing involved in it. And truthfully, if you're addicted to pornography, there's nothing funny about it. It's just as serious as any other addiction, and in some ways more so because of the nature of the addiction itself. It's a scary problem. One of the reasons that it's so frightening is because you might start doing drugs at 12. We're finding these days that a lot of people with porn addictions, especially the millennials, many of them started looking at the stuff when they were about 6, and it's something that compounds over time. When I say it's just like a drug addiction, I've had conversations in the past with people who scoff at that, and to them it's a masturbation tool and it's no big deal, and it's funny. How could this possibly be as serious as a drug addiction? And the truth of the matter is, because of what goes on in our brain, with addiction, porn is no different, and in many ways it's exactly the same. For instance, you start looking at porn the first time, and it really doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what genre you're looking at or how hardcore it is. Even if the first exposure to porn is softcore, the snowball effect that we get with every other drug, where I used to do a little, but a little wouldn't do it, right? As Guns N' Roses said. So the little just keeps getting more and more and more. And it gets, the thing with pornography is, it's not that you have to watch more porn, right? It's not that you go from doing, 2 hours a day of porn to doing 8 hours a day of porn. Although that can happen, more often than not, what happens is you start out with things that are fairly tame, with where if you just started watching it and it's it's straight sex, so to speak, it's going to get to the point where you're going to need 2 to 3 people in the film, and then it's going to get to the point where you're going to need a certain level of violence. One of the things that is taken place in porn in the last 20 years is that the movies themselves have gotten more violent. And people, again, this is an adult subject matter, but it's difficult for me to explain this and make people understand the danger behind this if I'm not somewhat graphic. I'm going to do what I can to keep it as least graphic as possible. But one of the things that has become really prevalent in porn is choking, right? And gagging. And gagging obviously is done with the male member, where they literally do what they can to repeatedly gag the female actress involved. And the choking is exactly what it sounds like. This is someone literally putting their hands around someone's neck and choking them. And the reason that they keep upping the game is because, just like a dope dealer, they've got to continually make the product stronger. If you want to appeal to people that have been watching porn for so long that it doesn't go bang anymore, it literally doesn't, you don't get the same effect watching the same porn. So it has to keep getting stronger and stronger. I read an article while I was incarcerated in 2015. I believe it was September of 2015. And they said there was 130,000 cases pending in the United States for child pornography. And the people that were writing the article were researching this, and they said the real difference these days is that, and I make no excuse for anyone who does this, you understand? I think that they should be, I don't want to say killed. Yeah, I do. Honestly, people who who find themselves attracted to watching children being abused should probably die. That being said, that's just a convict opinion, and there's no way I can get around that. It is the most reprehensible thing to me on the planet, and I can't seem to detach myself from it. But they said that the big change that they're seeing is that, in years past, the people who looked at child pornography were pedophiles, plain and simple. They were people that, engaged in sex acts with kids, and they looked at this stuff as a way to supplement that, because it's not something you could pull off every day. Obviously, it's it's a dangerous thing, because it carries the stigma and a very long time in prison. More so these days. It used to be more of a slap on the wrist. It's getting very, very serious. But what they're finding is that a lot of times, by the time this 6-year-old who started looking at porn hits the age of 20, he's looked at everything you could look at. He's looked at bestiality. He's looked at watching gay porn. And the reason being, it isn't necessarily gay. Obviously, he's probably not aroused by bestiality. But again, to get the threshold of that feel-good chemical, that shock, is really what gives you the feel-good chemical. The first time you see porn, for me, it was, the first time I ever had any kind of exposure like that was a Playboy magazine, right? I'm an old man. And I remember the shock of, oh my God, this girl doesn't have any clothes on. Like, this was a really big deal. And all of the things that go along with that. There's the chemical release in the brain. Well, imagine if your first exposure was hardcore pornography. Right, so there's no window. Like the things that we went through. I was probably 20, 21 the first time I had ever seen anything that was resembled a hardcore pornography. Nowadays, this 6-year-old turns to 22 and has literally seen everything. And these people will, looking for that next high, they will end up searching out the only thing they've never looked at, and they'll end up typing in many cases, right into a search engine, child pornography. And if you do that, the site that you're going to get is owned by the federal government. There's nobody who's trying to put child porn on available on normal search engines these days, right? This is something that has crawled into the dark web decades ago. But these people who are ignorant of what's going on will show up at a government-owned porn site. It's probably got 4 or 5 images, 10 images, whatever. Always, according to the article, children who are now so old that they've passed away. The Center for Exploited Children keeps all of that crap, and if a child is no longer alive, they will then use that as bait stuff to trap people who are out trying to find child pornography. Well, 100,000 cases plus were pending. People at that time, there was only 230,000 people in the entire federal system. So more than half of everybody in federal prison was waiting. A number as big as half of the population was waiting to be seen in court for child porn. This pornography epidemic is truthfully causing all kinds of problems in our society, whether people realize it or not. And I'm not a Puritan here by any stretch of the imagination, folks. And if you and your significant other watch porn as part of what you do, who cares? It's got nothing to do with me. What I'm talking about is for people who have become addicted to this, this is just as serious, if not more so, than drugs. And I say more so because if you have been watching hardcore pornography for your formative years, you've been watching it from the time you were 6 or 8 years old until the time you're 20 or 25, the odds of you having a normal sexual relationship with a woman is probably not great. In times past, what would happen is you would find somebody that you were going to spend the rest of your life with, or you were going to find someone that you dated for a long period of time, and the normal sexual activity is something that you experiment with these people that you fall in love with, these people you date for long periods of time, whatever the case may be. And that really was the instruction of how we learned what is a very integral part of all of our lives, right? Sex is a very big part of most people's existence. Kids today are really learning learning sex from pornography. And if that's the way that you have to look at it, the curriculum is pretty jacked up. Think about it. I mean, this is not normally the things that are done to female porn stars are not something you would want to consider doing on a regular basis to somebody that you cared about. And if this is the mindset, you end up with two different, this is what flips my switch, but this is what I'm going to do. Well, that's a problem that goes far beyond just the addiction. And people, if you were caught up in this, the process of quitting it is going to be just as difficult as the process of quitting chemicals. However, the good news is it's the exact same process. The 8 steps that I talked about are no different if you're a gambler, right? And we'll talk about gambling at a later date and some of the things that make gambling slightly different than some of the others. But porn is really unique in that it's something that erodes the social fabric of the country. Again, I'm not a Puritan. I don't feel like hearing it in the comment section about, oh, I watch porn, there's nothing wrong with porn. There's nothing wrong with alcohol for 90% of the people that drink it. There's nothing wrong with cannabis for 90% of the people that smoke it. You understand? Pornography, there are people who watch it and it's not a big deal. But for the 10% or whatever the number is for that particular affliction who are addicted to it, it is as debilitating an addiction as you will ever come across. For real, it is a vicious, vicious way to live. If you're in that life, just know that it's ruling you. No different than cocaine or heroin or alcohol or meth or anything else. It is ruling your life. The amount of time that you spend looking at it and the fact that you have to keep upping it. Unfortunately, what that means is, more degrading and more violent. And whether you want to scream that I'm a Puritan or whatever, when you're filming acts, sex acts that are getting more and more degrading and more violent to women. If you went back 20 years and you watched a porn film, the dialogue, whatever the dialogue was back then, obviously not highbrow stuff, but there was often a really weak plot attached to it, and that's sort of going away. And what you're getting now is just this gonzo variety where they're all they're showing is the sex act, but the dialogue is just vicious and mean. The 2 words you're going to hear the most are bitch and slut, and screaming that at your significant other and learning from an age of 6 that that's normal. There are people that are into dirty talk. However, as a genre that is so pervasive in society, every single person who has one of these has a porn star in their hand. When we were growing up, you had to walk into a Blockbuster. You had to walk into a Blockbuster Video or the local video store, and they had the little beads, or they had the curtain of shame that you had to walk behind. You'd have to go over and make sure that no one from the town that you grew up in was there. I mean, Johnny and I grew up in a town of about 800 people, so there wasn't a chance on God's green earth we were ever going to go behind that curtain. It was, you knew every single person in the city, and it wasn't something I was going to be comfortable walking behind that curtain. In this day and age, it's right here. It's on your damn telephone, and it's in your pocket at all times. And when you do any kind of research on this, you talk to kids who in high school are running to the bathroom 4 times a day, to take care of this porn addiction. People, it's not a laughing matter. So if you're hearing my voice and you're in this life, it is just as serious as if you're doing blow. It really is. I mean, the cost is not going to be as much in terms of the financial, but the cost in terms of what it does to you socially is as bad, if not more so. You really are risking messing with your brain chemicals to the point where when you get done with this, getting back to where, much like the methamphetamine, getting back to where any kind of normal sexual relationship with someone who you want to share the rest of your life with is going to be difficult. Even if you get a partner that is wildly into anything you're into, because you have been raising the bar your entire life, the same thing is going to happen in the real world. As you start to have a healthy sexual relationship with a woman you're married to, you hear these stories of sex addicts or porn addicts who want to bring 2 friends over. The things that they saw that have programming them their entire life, it gets to the point where there's a certain level of degradation where, in order to really enjoy any kind of intimate sexual relationship with someone they care about, there's going to have to be some level of degrading that person. That's jacked up, right? That's really messed up. So I'm not lecturing the people who watch this stuff now and then for the purpose of self-gratification. I don't care, I promise you. But if this is becoming an issue, you need to quit. You really do. You need to quit. And much like anything else, you're not going to quit by weaning off of it. Oh God, don't make jokes. You're not going to be able to step down off of this. It's going to be one of those things that you just have to stop. You don't step down off of cocaine. You don't step down off of heroin. You can't do that. I've tried 1,000 times. It's going to be the exact same thing. So if you think, well, I'm just going to watch it on weekends, or I'm just going to do this, you're tricking yourself. You're lying to yourself like every other addict who has ever walked the planet. What I want you to get out of what I'm talking to you about right now is more than anything the fact that porn is no different than drugs. It is no different in terms of what you're going to have to do to quit. You're going to have to admit that this is ruling your life, right? You're going to have to go through the 8 steps, or if you're more comfortable, you're going to have to go through the 12 steps. But you're going to have to treat this like what it is, which is a very serious addiction. Not trying to bum anybody out, not trying to play the Puritan. I assure you, I'm not that cat. But people, if you're in the life and that's something that that is ruling you, you need to quit. You do. It's going to make having a normal relationship with somebody very, very difficult, and it is going to interfere with who you are as a person. It really is. It's one of the most dangerous addictions out there because it's just so damn accepted. And it's no big deal. He's just tossing off or doing whatever. He's masturbating. What's the big deal? Or she is. It's not unique to men, but it's certainly more of a man addiction than a woman addiction. But people, if you're in the life, please do something about it. Look into the 12 steps or our 8 steps. Pay attention, go back and listen to some of the other videos that I've done on quitting, because it's not going to be any different. If that is your addiction, I promise you that the process of quitting is going to be identical. So with that, people, I know it's not a fun subject, it really isn't, but with that, I'm going to leave you, and I'd like to leave you with one thought. How about if we just start treating one another better, right? Watching anything where one party is systematically degraded, it's probably not a great idea. It's about as Puritan as I'm going to get, The watching 2 people have sex, I don't think is a particularly dangerous thing in a lot of cases. Watching a girl get slapped around or abused for the sake of your arousal, that's really awful stuff, and you really need to start evaluating how you feel about that, because it's jacked up, right? And like a friend of mine said, fastest way to ruin porn is just remember that that's probably somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, and very potentially somebody's mother. I'll leave you with that. And if you would like to be on this boat, I promise you that this is the least fun subject matter that we'll have. But if you want to be on this boat, people, it is a fantastic group of people that take care of one another. Down here, there will be a little thing you can click on, and it will get you on the boat. Over here, there are going to be some videos. People, please watch them. There are nuggets in there. There are pieces of information that are going to make you think and that are going to challenge you to be a better person. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and this was The Lifeboat. I will see you, same bad time, same bad channel, tomorrow.